Hello and welcome to the Quibber channel. I am Jason, your host. How do you end up with 80 to 100,000 worth of electronic equipment in your house? Because that's the final figure of how much stuff was in next door before I had to leave the place and leave most of it behind. How does that happen? I wasn't rich. Paola wasn't rich. We were both on benefits and both disabled. My mum wasn't rich. She was very smart, but she wasn't rich. Well, you have to remember, 20 years ago, well, more than 20 years ago, when me and Paola first got together, once my mum took a shine to us and saw how well we got on together. My mum had spent her entire life basically making sure that I was okay. She knew I was a bit weird. She knew I was a bit strange. We didn't have the diagnosis for autism and all that back then, but she knew that something was different. She was always getting me stuff and items and that would help me. And when me and Paola got together and once she took a liking to Paola, which didn't take long, and when me and Paola moved in together, the focus of my mum was to make sure that we were okay. And right from the start, there was two vectors on this. I was pretty much disabled from the start, and Paola was diagnosed with incurable cancer within the first year. My focus was to try to make sure that Paola, who was a gamer and who was disabled to the point where she couldn't leave the house, and I knew what that was like, had something that she could do all the time. Every single part of the house was backups over backups. For an example, back in 1998, when we were first together and she first got ill, 97, 98, something was available. Everybody else in that time was using 56k modems with a latency of about 300 milliseconds, 350 milliseconds. 250 if you were lucky. Now, they came out with something, and pretty much we were the first home users to take up on it. It was very expensive. It was called BT Home Highway. And what it was ISDN, which basically gave you, instead of a 56k connection, remember everybody else was on this 56k. This was 6 or 7 years before broadband, before ADSL, before all those things came out. This was the early days. And it gave you 128k up, 128k down. That was absolutely mind-blowing at the time. But here's the thing. I had 2 of them installed. 2. So we had a backup so that one could be used for the mod and the servers and the games we were running, and one could be used for purely for us to play games. And that was what the old house, all of it went through. Every room had 2 different smoke alarms. Every single room in the house in the old place. And when we moved to this place next door, I always had the best. We had one cloud-based Nest. You got to think, Nest protocol, smoke alarms that do both smoke and do also carbon monoxide, and they're cloud-based and they're very advanced still, even now. They're £100 each. Every single room in the house had one. And every single room in the house had a secondary one that wasn't wireless, wasn't cloud-based, but was actually the best you could get. That was not the most advanced that you get. That was not an optical one. So every room had 2 smoke alarms. Every room had at least 3 different ways to keep it lit. And it's still now. I've got 2 automatic light systems in this room, apart from the normal light, and I've also got a torch over there and a torch over there against the wall. And every single room has got that. Not just one room, not just the main room, every single room in the house has to have all that. And that was all done in the others. Remember, in the other house, we also had solar panels and that. But before all that came about, when we were it was all everything we had these APC, UPS, uninterruptible power supplies to back everything up, so that if the power went down, Paola could still do stuff, and I could still do stuff. We had 7 or 8 different computers, even back then, even in the 90s, as soon as I could get them to put together and put them all together for us. We had so many different computers and tablets and phones, and everything, and backup phones, and soon as phones could be used for games, we had multiple phones, always making sure that there was always a backup for every single event, every single situation. The equipment that she took to the hospital, when she had to go into hospital, was different than the computer stuff that get left at home, so that if it got broke or stolen at the hospital, it didn't affect what she had at home. And I always had a backup at home, so that if she got stolen at the hospital, I could take in a new set of equipment, and so on and so forth, everything. And we didn't smoke, we didn't drink, we didn't go out. Every little bit of money we had spare, every bit of money that was given us for disability went on technology. And even if you just count that on its own, that's over £7,000 per year, every single year. Upgrading, evolving, always at the forefront, always buying the best technology. First when VR came out and everything, so that Paola and me could always do things because we weren't leaving the house. And then when we got a really, really nice wheelchair, we had one of the best manual wheelchairs you could get, with pneumatic tyres and full air cushion suspension built in on all the wheels, an independent frame system. It cost a lot of money, and that one was left in that house as well, unfortunately. And that could be used on anywhere. We called it our adventure chair because it was. And we had a backup version. We had 2. Because one was never enough, always a backup. And then there was the multiple walking aids that Paola had, of the same kind of thing. Disabled stuff cost a lot of money, so all of those kind of things. So imagine how that stuff evolved over the time. And imagine this when before all of you knew about streaming, I was streaming content in my own house. I had started digitizing from VHS tapes to CD-ROMs, and then DVD-ROMs, and so on. And then it evolved into using hard drives, so that Paola, anywhere in the house, had access to technology. So she had access to films without having to go and get a DVD out. So that we could both do things without to mitigate all the problems we were facing. The house was always wired with the best network connection system available at the time. Business grade stuff, not home use stuff. Thousands and thousands of pounds of stuff. And that started right at the start in 1999 and evolved, increased bit by bit. And add to that on top, having a mother who always wanted to make sure we were okay and hated with spending money on herself, but would always look after us and spend money on us. We never asked, but she always did it. And you can see where that amount of money would come from, without even really seeing it happen. And a lot of that was lost when all this debacle happened and I had to move here. It sucks. But as Brit can attend when he comes to see, he'll always see it here. Even now, because all of my coping strategies are based around dealing with all this stuff without having to be on medication, because the medication never worked for me and always made me worse, or made me feel not like myself. And so everything I do, I'm not a prepper. I keep a lot of food because it makes my brain not drive me crazy about, oh my God, what happens if this happened, this happened, this happened. I keep a lot of batteries in the house, not because I'm a prepper, but because, oh my God, what happens if the power goes out and if there's no And the same goes for the multiple lights and the multiple. I still have the two-factor approach. I cannot have a single point of failure anywhere in the house. I cannot have a single point of failure anywhere in the house. There's got to be a backup for every single system. The more important a system is to me, the more backups I need for it. Which is why I'm going to have to get some kind of backup for the mobility scooter, because that is already starting to feel tetchy in my head. And it sucks. It sucks that I have to do this. It sucks that my brain has to keep this going. It's like the lighting system, it works so well. I always, when it comes to fire prevention, with all this technology in the house, so I will always have two separate fire prevention system. I still go for that same methodology. One fire, one smoke alarm and fire alarm type of thing is a cloud-based, AI-based, really good system. And the other is the most advanced you can get these days, that is non-wireless and non-cloud-based and will work no matter what. Same goes for every part of the house. I've got to have the backups. And it's just, it's kept me going, and it kept Paola going for so long. And it worked, and it still works, and it's always evolving. So it's like this morning, I had that really big dark depression that was hitting me hard. But the fact that I did it on here, got rid of it. Literally got rid of it. By putting it out from here onto there, I took it out of here where it was going around and round and round. I took it out of my head, and as I talked about it, as I recorded it, I saw more and more the untruths of it, the non-rationale of it, the non-logical side of it, as I spoke it into the camera, as I recorded it for uploading. I saw that, and by the end of it, it was gone. Or at least settled down to a point where it was a non-issue. That is how good this stuff works. That is why I'm so thingy when you're so focused when you see me on here. And things work. That is why I don't have to mask. That is why I can be myself. And once again, this same level of backup and coping strategy is only just starting with the wheelchair. I call it wheelchair. The mobility scooter. It is only just starting with the mobility scooter. But it's already opening up so many new doors for me. And I know it will work so well because this kind of thing just does seem to work. Maybe it's because my autism is, my special interests are technology and my affinity, and that angles itself against my ADHD and my other issues, and it all comes together like a perfect storm. But whatever it is, it works. But yet, when I talk about people often ask me, how can you have that amount of technology in that? And where did it all come from and that? It built up so slowly over 20 years, evolving at the forefront of all the technology out there. Because I was always looking for new stuff. And it worked. It worked so fucking well. And that's why I can have stuff like what happens last night, where massive amounts of horrible depression-induced guilt and darkness can hit me, and I can still function, and I can survive it, and I can carry on, and I can take the next step forward. It's awesome. So this is Jason for the Quever channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful, splendiferous day.